On the African scene, we take a look at North Africa in Tunisia. The Tunisian National Guard collectively expelled over 100 migrants from multiple African countries to the border with Algeria between September 18th and 20th, 2023, Human Rights Watch said today. Those expelled, which include children and possibly asylum seekers, had been intercepted at sea and returned to Tunisia by the Coast Guard, part of the National Guard. Now, these operations may signal a dangerous shift in Tunisian policy, as authorities had previously usually released intercepted migrants in Tunisia after disembarkation. The EU signed with Tunisia on July 16th a memorandum of understanding to increase funding to the Tunisian security forces, including the Coast Guard, to stem irregular sea migration to Europe. Some migrants also said that National Guard agents beat them and even steal their belongings, including phones, money, and passports. That tells the height of harassment they go through during migration.
Somali mogul Ismail Ahmed challenges British firm's money printing contracts in Somaliland. Somali mogul Ismail Ahmed, through the Shamia Foundation, his non-profit organization dedicated to improving access to quality education in the Horn of Africa, has issued a compelling challenge to UK-based global company De La Rue. The challenge revolves around De La Rue's controversial $9.6 million contract to print money for Somaliland. In the open letter, Ahmed, the founder and chairman of World Remit, calls for the immediate annulment of the contract awarded to De La Rue, a leading British firm with a two-century legacy in designing a substantial share of the world's currency notes. The contract in question involves printing an astronomical sum, 380 billion Somali shillings, amounting to a staggering $668 million by the Somaliland government. The central point of contention raised by Ahmed is that the highly unusual decision to print money, especially at a high time when the country is preparing for presidential election, is predicated to cause the value of the SL shilling to drop from 8,750 to over 20,000 per dollar. He says, "I urge you to cancel and contract and return the $9.6 million that the Central Bank of Somaliland sent to you to fund the transaction." Now, this emerges on the heels of De La Rue making headlines in Kenya for its actions, where it reportedly spent approximately 2.7 million cash, that's $18.1 million, to downsize its operations. This fund was purportedly used to cover legal expenses, terminate employees, and write off assets.
Well, on to West Africa, Liberia votes as president where seeks a second term. Well, around 2.4 million voters in Liberia are eligible to cast their ballots on Tuesday today in a general election in which President George Weah is seeking a second term after the first 6 years marked by corruption allegations and abiding economic hardship. Weah, who's 57, turned to politics after a successful soccer career, says he needs more time to fulfill his promise to rebuild the West African nation's broken economy, institutions, and infrastructure, pledging to pave more roads if re-elected. Elected in 2017 in the country's first democratic change of power in over 70 years, Weah is running against 19 other presidential candidates. To avoid a runoff, the winner must secure 50% of vote cast, plus at least one more vote. Wrapping up his campaign after a parade across the capital, Monrovia, on Sunday evening, Weah cast his first time as a success despite significant challenges. He has faced criticism from the opposition and Liberia's international partners for not doing enough to tackle corruption during his first term in office. Last year, he fired his chief of staff and 2 other senior officials after the United States sanctioned him for corruption.
In his final speech, he highlighted that steps taken to address graft including the appointment of independent members to the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission. Will's main challenger is former Vice President Joseph Boakai, 78 years, whom he defeated in a runoff in 2017. Boakai has campaigned on what he calls the need to rescue Liberia from alleged mismanagement by Weir's administration. In Niger, Algeria postpones its mediation in Niger. Algeria announced on Monday that it was suspending its mediation intended to put an end to the crisis that has shaken Niger since the takeover by the military. The Algerian government has decided to postpone the initiation of the planned preparatory discussions until obtaining the clarifications that it considers necessary regarding the implementation of Algerian mediation in Niger, indicated the Ministry of Affairs Foreigners in a press release.
Meanwhile, still about Niger, French army has begun its withdrawals from the nation. Operations for the withdrawal of French soldiers present in Niger should begin today, or has already begun, under the escort of the Nigerian army, announced the military regime which came to power through the coup d'etat at a time when Algeria decides to suspend its mediation, supposed to find a way out of the crisis.